There we go. Hey everybody, welcome. Hope you all had a wonderful emulk, which would be February 1st, 2nd, depending.
Oops, gotta mute my audio here.
Cool. We're actually having a bit of sun today, at least, well, not so much now, but not absolute rain yet. Had some sun this morning, which was way cool. We were very happy. Ruth says, hi all. Hi, Ruth. First in the door. Julia says, Skitter's into place, grinning from ear to ear. Hey, everyone. Hi, Julia. Erin says hello. Hi, Erin. Jono. Hi, guys. Hi, Jono. Larissa says, hi. Hi, Larissa. Welcome, everyone. Hope you all had a good week. I don't know where everyone is from. Looking normal now.
Yes.
Awesome.
Got the camera.
We finally figured that out. Bruce says, laugh out loud. Yep. Apparently this one must have been out here because it's sort of sticky. I must have left it out here last time. Now I'm all sticky. Whee! Yikes. I get the sticky off me.
Toilet paper.
Oh, it's right there. I can get some. Z-Sun says hi all. Hi Z-Sun. How you doing? I just got sticky on my fingers. We actually got to see one of Ian's paintings printed on canvas because we offer that through our Etsy site. And so I brought it in. It's a small version of it to show everybody. Let me lower that down because apparently it's in the way. There we go. I think I got it up there. I was amazed at how well this turned out. They do sort of like a wrap around for the other part of the print, around the side and stuff.
Print on canvas.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool. So since she's a local, she's a client of mine, as a massage client, and so she gave it to me to bring home so that Ian can sign it because she wants a signed copy. So, and this is a local park that we live by, that he got the picture about, and I just love how the reflections and everything in it is just amazing. So if any of you really like the picture, you can always buy a print or on canvas printed. So we're very happy with the quality and how that came out, because you don't know for sure until you actually see it yourself. But we got a good company, so we're excited. So Juanita says, I just found you today and was in the middle of one of your videos about making our own reality. I guess I was meant to be here today. Hello from North Carolina. Well, welcome. Hi, Juanita. Welcome. Sundrop says, hey, Ian and Siofra, I've got my question ready about spirits and energy. I'll ask shortly. Cool. Z-Sun says, oh, wow, so magical. And Julia says, waves back also from North Carolina. So we have a couple of people on in the state over there. So that's way cool. And yeah, in the spirit of showing off stuff, what did I do? Here it is. I brought in, since we just had emulk and that's Bridget's day, I thought I'd show off the beaded work I did of Bridget. I made this piece. This is one of mine. So yeah. And she came out pretty fantastic. I have her in my room. And she's all made out of beads, glass beads and stuff. But, you know, since it's her day, or close to it. I thought it'd be fun to show her off. At the same time, why not, right? We're both artists, I guess. I have my art, he has his art. It's awesome. Julia says wants to take a walk into that painting. Wow, I love that kind of nature scene.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's really nice having the original hanging up in our house. Sometimes I'll just sit and look at it in the living room, and it's a wonderful piece. I'm so happy that he found his calling, really, when it comes to that. Juanita says, those are beautiful. Thank you, Juanita. Julia says, blessing to Bridget. Yes. Zizan says, love, 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 Bridget. Beth says, hello, one and all. Hi, Beth. So, anyway, that's our show and tell for the day, just because we don't know how long we'll have the other piece anyway, so I figured I'd show it off. Zizan says, how do you spell her name? Well, they spell her name in about 6 or 7 different ways. So it could be Brigid or the ITTE, or I think there's a Brighid. Yeah, there's a lot of different variations on that, but, and yeah, so anyway. Kendra says, hello. Hi, Kendra's Journey. Z-Sun says, ah, okay. Yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of names that are out there where there's multiple types of spellings. Jono says, Juanita, do you have a moment for me to tell you about our Lord and Savior, Franz Barton? It's an edgy joke. Don't take it the wrong way. Yes, we like Franz Barton. He's pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to do a couple more videos along those lines. One of them I want to do is just on some more basics about getting started with Barton stuff, and then I also I ran across something that was done by an old teacher of Crowley's, actually, by the name of Alan Bennett, who did a little piece called The Training of the Mind. And I wanted to go through that because it's interesting in that it points out a lot of the things you get with Barton's first couple of chapters in the meditations and what they mean. He doesn't talk about Barton specifically. He talks about it from a Buddhist point of view, but it's basically the same exercises and the results to be obtained from them, since Barton doesn't say much about the results. He just says accomplish this and the next step accomplish that. But this goes more into the mystical states and how you're really affecting yourself and how it's working towards your total alignment, that really ties in with the first couple of chapters of Barton stuff. So I want to try and get a couple of those out. And it's going to depend on how much time I have, because I've been working on cars and cars and cars and other things, but that'll take a while yet. But
We at least got our car starting, so this is like a movement in the right direction. So yes. Juanita says, I'm afraid I don't know the reference. I'm sorry. I have a lot to learn about a lot of things spiritually. Yeah, he is was a ceremonial hermetic.
hermetic, use the word hermetic, yeah, because this whole first book is hermetic, but it's not ceremonial. You don't get into the ceremonial stuff till the second book.
Right. But he's written 3 books on the subject. The first one, Initiation into Hermetics. Second one, Practical Evocation. And the third one is The True Kabbalah.
Yeah.
And they're full. It's like a reference library in those 3 books.
Yeah, the his Kabbalah book isn't anything like a standard Western Kabbalah book. It doesn't go for any of the the things that Westerners normally think of as Kabbalah. It focuses strictly on accomplishing magical results by pronunciation of the word. His focus is on practical use of the Kabbalah.
And Z-Sun says, anxious for Sendrop's questions. Jono says, Juanita, that's why I referenced him. You'll get to know who he is if you stick around. He's my magical role model.
And mine also, of course.
Julia says, pro tip, Juanita, you are always going to think that way. Never ending learning process. Absolutely. And I was thinking the other day, it's like I officially started studying and practicing this when I was 14. which was 60 years ago. So, yeah, and I'm still learning new stuff all the time. Kara Lee says, afternoon, everyone. Hi, Kara. Juanita says, I'm very excited to cram my human brain with as much magical universal knowledge as possible.
Well, me too. And I've been at it for a long time and I'm still a beginner.
You think if you're doing it right, you always are. Once you think you know everything, you've gone down the wrong fork. It's like things are messed up at that point. Pa Joe says, hi, been listening. Hi, welcome. Kendra's Journey says, that's when I started. I've been practicing 29 years. Cool. Pa Joe says, thank you. You're welcome. Beth says, I could listen to Ian talk about books that are so amazing you can feel his energy as he speaks of something he loves. Yeah, that's true.
Thank you. Now I'm kind of embarrassed.
Something he needs to learn how to handle. Gageko says, can you use Reiki energy to increase your magic? Reiki is specifically for healing energy and for sort of removing energy blockages and that kind of thing. So in that sense, by getting your energy better aligned and healthier, that is going to help increase your magic, because then you won't be all, bound up. So not precisely, but as a side effect, I would say it can certainly help. Carol Lee says, I love learning. Good. That's the right attitude to have. I do too. It's like, you don't love learning, you're in the wrong you're in the wrong room here. Pa Joe says, funny how the universe can be contrary to what we think, and a good teacher. Yep. Well, that's the trick, is to try to have not too many assumptions about what you're going to find, and keeping your mind open and flexible so that you can actually absorb the information. Bobby says, hello everyone in Siofra. Hi, Bobby. Beth says, student forever in this game we call life and magic. Yep.
Yep.
Bobby says, Siofra, what crystals you wear today? Well, this is actually a necklace, a beaded necklace that I made. This is a Celtic dragon, so it's not crystals, it's glass. They're Japanese seed beads and some Czech beads as well in here for the faceted. But I did it in like jewel tones. So, like peridot and emerald and sapphire and topaz. These are actually gold. There's actual gold leaf on them. They're not solid gold. It'd be way too expensive. So today I'm not wearing any crystals. So another piece of my art. Juanita says, I don't think it's possible for us to learn everything. There's just an infinite amount of things we couldn't possibly understand. It's wonderful, but also frustrating. True.
Yep, you gotta narrow them down to
Yep.
a few subjects, especially
Small
now that,
bites.
now that we have the internet. Before it would be you'd scrounge the library for whatever few magical books you could find, and now it's all
If they
there at
hadn't
the
taken
touch of
them
your
out and
fingers.
burned them
Yeah.
already, which they've
Well,
done.
true.
Yeah.
That was another issue.
That's another issue.
But it's wonderful just having everything available
Yep.
instantly.
Bobby
My
says,
opinion.
hello, Beth. And Jana says, the cool thing is it's never too late to get on the path. No one should ever think they missed their chance because they weren't doing exorcisms at 12 years old.
Very true.
I agree.
Yep.
Carol Lee says, whoa, I love dragons. Me too. Bobby says, dragons I have as friends in the astral. Me too. Z-Sun says, that necklace is amazing. And Bobby says, amazing necklace. Thank you very much. I originally, when I made this necklace, it wasn't going to be the one that I kept, but after I made it, I had to keep it. It belonged to me. Kiana says, I've been trying to catch a live for ages. Finally get one from the beach. Made my vacation. Awesome. We'd like to be someone's reason for having fun on the beach. Kara says, agreed. Love that necklace. Beth says, hi, Bobby. How are you?
You missed Bobby's one asking what color.
Oh, Siofra says, what is the color you're most comfortable in? Well, I like all kinds of colors. It just depends on the mood I'm in. Today I'm wearing black because it shows off this necklace so well. Purple is probably my favorite color, but I have lots of greens and blues and sometimes gold and browns and stuff like that that I get into. So it just depends. Yep, not just one. So Sundrop says, how is it that spirits can physically touch and hurt us physically, like leaving physical marks if they're not physical? Have you experienced that? No, I've not had a spirit try to harm me or make a mark on me, probably because of who I am. I have seen some people who have had that happen to them, and they're not physical, the spirits themselves, and they can only harm you if you think they can or allow them to. So it's kind of a combination between the subconscious of the person who's in the situation and the amount of energy that they've given to the spirit. Usually those kinds of encounters are because the person who's being attacked, if that's what you want to call it, is terrified and is feeding energy, that fear energy, into either the thought form of the spirit being or whatever it happens to be. So then it has enough energy available to more physically manifest. So I don't think they can hurt us unless we allow it.
Yeah, personally, or technically, I should say, if a person wanted to create the same type of effect of manifesting something down physically from a higher planes, and they were a practiced magician, you could do that using the earth element and solidify it down,
As in
among other
physical
things.
marks. That,
Yeah, that type of thing. Or
there was actually an
yeah,
experiment that's a group of people did in England where they created their own ghost. And it worked. And it was all out of their own mind. So that was pretty interesting. And they had a lot of physical manifestations, moving of objects,
yeah,
and all sorts of
it
stuff that
can
took
happen.
place.
Yeah,
Yep. Let's see. Bobby says, very good, Beth. Thanks. Hope you're well and healthy. Juanita says, the internet is wonderful, yet dreadful. No issue in finding answers. The problem is finding the right answers. No kidding.
yeah, that's an issue for.
Accuracy,
Yeah,
not exactly what they're mostly going for.
yeah. I think the biggest thing about that is to be open minded about your searches. I don't know. I've always been pretty good at it naturally, I guess, at throwing out the garbage stuff and finding the real stuff. I think it's. I don't know. If I had to guess, I'd guess it's more of a attitude you take when you're doing the searching.
Discernment
But
is
yeah,
definitely
there's
a
a
quality. You have to have healthy skepticism and discernment when you're looking at things.
yeah, because there's definitely a lot of false stuff out there. All you have to do is look at how many perpetual motion machines or free energy devices are listed on YouTube, and
Eh,
yeah, you know, which are all fraudulent. Basically, everyone I've ever looked at has been.
so Pa Joe
Sorry,
says,
don't mean to get off the
funny how
subject.
dragons could be in many forms, in my opinion. Yes. Z Sun says, astral dragons, me too. Bobby says, dragons come in many sizes also. Funny, but dragons are into my life, and I never knew why. I've
Well, that's the thing.
encountered them some definitely in as spirit forms that I've seen, as well as astral and thought forms and stuff like that. Kiana says, I started on this path at 12. I remember how hard it was to find books in the library or even in stores. Most books were pretty. You can learn from anything, even if you learn what not to do. But
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I read a bunch of books I wasn't actually interested in, like the Book of Black Magic and Pacts and things like that, just to learn more. Really,
just to
I
know
took
what other
whatever I
people
could
are
find.
thinking.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
Beth says, Bobby, I'm with Taco, my 19-year-old Chihuahua. We are in the living room. He is in heart failure,
Aw,
and I'm here for him, and we're sleeping around his schedule to love him until it's time. Poor guy, he's lucky to have you, though. At least he's going to be with people he trusts, so that's a good thing. Bobby says, yes, astral dragons, a gnome and a spirit called Mother Night, which I don't know what she is. I have heard some people call Lilith that. Bobby says, I understand, Beth. Donna says, it's kind of funny. There are two very knowledgeable and diligent witches on a different channel who love Barden, but they say it's too much work. True story. Initiation into is a lifetime's work.
And if you understand what it will do for you, how it can really change you entirely, you know, into the type of person you'd like to be, I find it just inestimably valuable to me,
Well, there's a lot of
priceless.
ways of getting to the same place, so maybe it's just not their,
Well, that's
it
true.
doesn't fit their particular personality and
Well,
so forth. It,
that's true. And there's also, I have to admit, there's a lot of things that um, Barton wrote the books the way he did, specifically so that the people who weren't suited for it on a personal level probably will not find it interesting and will not continue, and they'll go look for other means. Um, he didn't put any blinds in there or anything like that, but yeah, the way it's written, he doesn't pile on a bunch of things for the ego. I'll put it that way. So yeah. Anyway, it's definitely not everybody's path. I don't want to, you know,
oh yeah.
seem too one-sided there.
So Beth says Bobby love. Pa Joe says birthmarks are interesting. They can be. Julia says, "Oh Beth, I'm so sorry for you and Taco. I love Chihuahuas, all dogs really, but special spot for those cocky sweeties. Hugs so tight. Yeah, we're all thinking about you." Bobby says, "Initiation. I nearly read inflation." Bobby says, "Siofra, is there a prayer or chant or ritual to help us reconnect with our ancestors?" It depends on who your ancestors are, I would assume, because it'd be culturally specific and meaningful. So no, there's not a general um, prayer or whatever that I could just recommend. I don't work with my ancestors, uh, so I haven't really delved into that. But just thinking about it, if you were of African descent, you probably would be saying
Yeah.
something different to your ancestors than if you were of Irish descent or, Native American or from India and Hindu. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
ancestors are like in
some
your line.
some ancestors just aren't so great. Like us, a lot of us white people have some ancestors that we're not really proud
Yeah.
of.
But I mean, ancestor worship and working with the ancestors, a lot of people do it and it's great. I have my issue personally with it is I remember too many different lives that I've had before. So I have groups of ancestors that if I wanted to, I could, incorporate, but then which ones would I pick? So I'm just like, yeah, I'm going to go in a different direction for me. Beth says, "Julia, thank you so much. He's such a fighter and he's comfortable, my little Aztec warrior." Sundrop says, "Is it true kids are closer to the spiritual world?" Yeah, because they've just come out of it. The younger they are, the closer they are to it. And just like it's true that the elderly or a person who's about to die is also closer to the spirit world because you're being drawn back into it.
I would like to add also that children don't have all the preconceived erroneous notions that most adults get about the spiritual world and stuff, and the religious aspects and things that adults consider so important, so they're more open to what's happening right there right now without the mind interferes with a lot
Yeah,
of
judgment,
natural
criticism,
things that
assumptions,
people can perceive. Yeah.
right, that have been given to them. I mean, there's any number of children out there who I'm sure when they got older realized that they used to see spirits all the time when they were a kid, but everybody told them they weren't real. And so then we go through a stage where we can't see them anymore. If you don't believe that they're there, you're not looking, you're not paying attention to that kind of input.
And your body shuts down the senses if they're
Right.
not being used. It
But like I said,
go
with
dormant.
when you're getting close to death, those faculties open up again, and you're more like the child when you came in that sense. It's kind of interesting. Kendra's Journey says, "I love dragons, but I've never worked with them. I imagine they would be powerful allies." I'm sure they would be. The one that I have that's a spirit here, there's only a few of them. They're not that popular. I mean, They're not populated, a large population. I know I met one in Monterey, I met one up the coast around Waldport, and I know that there's one east of me because I can feel it. So, yeah, and they are definitely a very powerful ally. Julia says, tell him to look for my honey. Reddish brown deer head with deep tan markings and golden eyes. I hope they get together and take comfort. Bobby says, I used to live at night, and between 2 and 4 a.m., I felt the veil was almost gone and I could talk or be more easily in contact with spirits. Yeah, and I think one of the reasons for that has to do with the fact that the psychic background noise, especially if you're sensitive and pick up on other people's either emotions or thoughts, telepathy or empathy, is more stilled because fewer people are up and about and adding to the airwaves. And so it's easier to discern. Not as much junk in the lines. It's like, yeah, the lines of communication get all filled up with daily activities and distractions and so forth. Sundrop says, hi, Beth. Gaga Gecko says, I heard Reiki energy is an energy source that you can use to feed into your magic and make it more powerful. What's your take on that? It is specifically for healing. There are specific angelic spirits that have agreed to send healing energy to people.
So
That's what its focus is.
yeah, I agree, and I would say it would be more effective to. I know people do that, but use an energy that's appropriate for what you're doing because just the same way um, Reiki is turned on by attunements where you get attuned to the energy, but you can attune yourself to all the other kinds of energy out there, like solar energy. You can attune yourself to the prana. You can attune yourself to one of the planetary energies, to the lunar energy, whatever is most appropriate for your project or towards your abilities, and put that into it, and you'll be a lot more effective than trying to use Reiki for other things than healing, in my opinion.
And I can tell you, as someone who does distant Reiki, when someone is trying to use Reiki for other purposes, it doesn't work for me to send them Reiki. I end up getting, it's like I'm hitting a brick wall, because in order to receive the Reiki energy, you need to be relaxed, meditation, focused on receiving and feeling the energies and that kind of thing. And if you're trying to use it to augment an activity that you're doing, I can't do that for people.
But yeah, and let's add that, and unless you've had the attunements, you can't really do the Reiki properly. So first you have to have had the attunements to contact with the Reiki energy. But um, that said, I'd still try to use something that was more appropriate
Yeah.
because there's so many energies and things out there naturally, and most of the time people try to do something and accomplish something, a spell or something, and they don't charge it with the relevant energy. If you really want a spell or candle magic or anything you're doing to work well, giving it a source, a battery as it were, of the proper energy to suit that purpose will help a lot. If you just put out the purpose and you're just using willpower to focus on the purpose, that can work, but it has to convert that energy from somewhere, and usually it comes from you. So, and it can even weaken you in extreme cases. So, much better to contact with an energy that's appropriate for it. Planetary energy, elemental energies,
Yeah.
different things.
I mean, yeah, there's other energies that'd be a lot more precise and useful than Reiki for the purpose that you're asking.
My opinion, anyway.
Mine too. Bobby says, I'm sending healing energies for your dog right now, Beth. Juanita says, Siofra, how often do you go live? Every Sunday at 2 o'clock my time, Pacific time, once a week. And Beth says, I've always been a dream weaver, but for 3 nights this week my dreams were magical, hijacked, very negative, and I had no control. I feel it's possible my stress from feeling stressed with Taco. Yeah, when you're emotionally stressed or physically stressed, then that can happen. I know that happens to me if I'm sick, then I need more protection around me when I'm sleeping. Um, and just because I'm weakened. So, yeah, I would think that that would probably be the case.
Yeah.
Bobby says possibly Beth, possibly. Beth says, Bobby, thank you, love. Tara says, could be, Beth. Bobby says, some shadow work could help. Do shadow work when you're feeling strong, not when you're feeling weak.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Pa Joe says, understand and understand little bit different animals or just word spelling as ancestors can be refining. Okay, that one's not tracking in my brain, but maybe it's tracking for someone else. Beth says, I gotta think so. I am so in control of my dreams.
Yeah,
Children
and
still
and
haven't been programmed, such magical possibilities.
and you can always use a little suggestion at night before you go to bed. Just repeat in your mind a bunch of times if you want, and even try to carry it off until you fall asleep. Just repeating like "I only have good dreams" or something like that to help with that on a short-term basis when you're having it. That kind of thing could be pretty
Or get a
effective thing.
nicely charged rock.
Well, that too, yeah.
Whatever works. Um, so Bobby says, very true, Beth, about children still haven't been programmed. Kendra's Journey says, I saw it too, and then I shut it off. Now I can't turn it back on. Ghosts, that is. Ah, you shut down because of surprise, anxiety, and fear. Um, it'll happen again. Sundrop says, can you explain a spirit's energy? Is it different than ours? Well, that depends on what kind of a spirit it is. If it's a human spirit, it's exactly the same as ours. It just doesn't have a body. You are a spirit.
But if
Every
it's
single one of you out there is a spirit that happens to be in a physical body. So their spirits aren't any different. They just don't have that physicality, and the ability to communicate and interact with the world physically is limited.
Well, I might add that, and depending on the spirit, many of them are single element. Like if you were talking, you could be talking an undine, and every human spirit is composed of the four elements plus akasha. But there's a lot of single element spirits, and I don't know about the planetary spirits. They could kind of be either, but they're generally associated with a element. Um, the sun is obviously associated with fire, that kind of thing, you know.
Well, different spirits are going to have different energies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But she was talking about, I think. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, it's energy. All life is, and all existence is composed of energy that's moving fast enough or slow enough for us to interact with one way or another. So it's all the same kind of energy. It's just more precision. It's got on the spectrum. It's like if you were looking at light, for example, you've got anywhere from the lower infrared to the upper ultraviolet, but it's all light. And every spectrum is going to be different. We have our narrow spectrum of visible light, and then there's all the other light frequencies that are out there. It doesn't mean that they don't exist or that we might not be able to see them with assistance or help, or be a person who sees farther into one of the spectrums or another than someone else, because there's variations in us and our abilities and our perceptions and so forth. But there's no, one answer that says to explain a spirit's energy. Each energy is different, like Ian was talking about. If you're working with an elemental, it's got one kind of energy. It's got the earth, the air, the fire, or the water kind of energy, and that's its thing. That's what it deals with. That's what it works with. So it's not a precise enough question to just answer. Pajo says, I was told I had a twee Tweety bird as a friend as a child from my mom. Yeah, I had a bird too. Apparently, I had a parakeet, and it died. And somehow I kept finding it and digging it up and bringing it home to my mother. She wasn't very happy about that. She kept trying to sneak it out to bury it, and somehow I always knew where it was. And I would dig it up and bring it home and say, "Look what I found! I found Tweety Bird." Yep. Beth says we have a small purple one that showed up near my shuns a couple weeks ago where I put veggies and fruit out. Regina says, "Have you ever known a dragon to incarnate into human form?" No, we're a very different species. And although there's stories about that kind of stuff in China where dragons can take on human form, different types of knowledge dragons, I've not met one. Bobby says Gege Gecko is a lizard like the lizard people, pretty similar to dragons. Juanita says, I always am more progressive when the rest of the world is asleep. I think you mean perceptive. I have much more clarity and concentration. Yes,
Yeah, that's why
definitely.
Bard recommends for his evocation book. He recommends nighttime as being the best time to do it because everything's so much quieter. The psychic realm is so much quieter with so many people asleep. Of course, you know, depends on what side of the world you're on.
Well, that's true.
Yep.
And when the sun goes down, my sight comes open, and it's just sort of automatic for me. And Bobby says, "Me too, Anita." Yeah, so true. What is Reiki? Why do they call it that? I think Reiki has got a specific meaning um, in Japanese. It's from Japan originally.
Yeah, it does, but I don't recall. It's
I don't
been too
recall it
long.
either.
But
And
it's a particular system that was set up.
a
There
guy
was
went up to a mountain and spent 28 days there and
had a revelation, encountered angels. What do you call termed
encountered 28
angels?
angels who
Yeah.
said, "Here are symbols that you can use to connect to our realm, and when you do this, we will send healing energy through you, and
So
you can share this with other people."
yeah, so you use the symbols and the fact that you've been attuned to Reiki by a Reiki master to then you can get in contact with it, use the symbols, and pull down the energy through the use of those and the visualization of them.
And there are certainly other forms of energy healing. I mean, I was a psychic healer for years before I even heard of Reiki.
Yeah, this
So
is just
it's
one
just one
specific type.
specific
Yeah.
path of it that apparently you can spend lots and lots of money to be attuned if you want to. We were lucky we knew some people who had the skill set already, and we sort of did a energy trade, I guess. Bobby says, yes, it's so true. Oh, Beth says, I've been a, I think,
Reiki,
I
Reiki.
think Reiki master, not a wrecking
Yeah, she
master.
uses it below.
Okay, for decades. And the one thing I learned is so many people are out there doing Reiki and don't even know what the best thing is, not to think about it, just do it. Yeah, Reiki oops. And Bobby says, yes, it's so true. Papa Joe says, does our local location affect the energies to what we experience? It seems to me it does. Well, yeah, it certainly can. Depends
Yes,
on where you are. If
some
you're,
areas can be way less effective for doing things. Some can be
yeah,
power spots that are way more effective for doing things.
right. They can give you an energy boost and just blam, and take you up to 10 levels above where you usually are, or they can dampen you out depending on how sensitive you are. Juanita says it's like tuning a radio to the right station. Both sides have to be on the same frequency to work. Yep, sounds like a good
Yeah,
explanation.
that's a really good analogy for Reiki for sure.
And Beth says, Pa Joe, it does for me, the location. Kendra's Journey says, that's a great analogy, Juanita. Yes, it works.
Yeah.
Ruth says, 5 p.m. my time. So you're on the East Coast somewhere. Z Sun says, sending light and positive vibes to Beth. I'm sure she appreciates it. And yes, she does. Bobby says, really? Isn't that the correct moment to dig deeper now that the barrier is ready? Of course, some precautions wouldn't hurt. Not sure where that fits in.
Oh, I think he was talking about the. I don't know. Sorry. Anyway.
Maybe he'll illuminate. Beth says, I have crystals all around me. If the house caught on fire, I will grab my fur babies, my crystals, pictures of my children, and run out the door. Yeah.
Because crystals might not be hurt by a fire, right?
Well, they can melt.
Depends. They could also
Yeah.
pop or something. Yeah,
Yeah,
depending on the one.
explode,
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah.
or maybe stop the fire. I
But in
don't know.
general, yeah.
Bobby says, Beth, I know you are a crystal creature. So, Beth, I guess it would qualify you as a crystal healer Reiki master. Beth says, Bobby, I have them in my purse. We have a love affair, crystals and myself. Me too. I have them under my pillow. I have them next to my bed. I have them in my pocket. I have them in my purse. I have crystals all over the place. Bobby says, know what you mean. I purchased about $3,000 worth of crystals in the last 15 years. Gageko says, I can't find any good books on creating thought forms. Can I create a thought form as a loyal servant, and how powerful can I get it? They call that servitor, or
Yeah, I think that's the term
the
that's
term that they're
generally used.
generally
Yeah.
using, or an elemental is often what we call it, because usually you're making it out of a single element rather than. And yes, you can create a thought form. Um, it's your own thought, so
Well,
comes out of you.
basically, just keep in mind you can, and there are instructions to do it. And if you go through Barton's system, he teaches how to do it once you reach the level to be able to do it, because it's making one that works effectively is not exactly a minor task. But just keep in mind that you're completely responsible for any karma
Anything it
that's
does.
accrued. Anything your thought form does, you're responsible for the karma of that, as if you had
Done it.
physically went out and done it yourself, whatever it might be.
Yep. It's always good to think about those things. Beth says, Bobby, I do use crystals in healing. My favorite tool are my hands. And Bobby says, I love even the heated amethyst that ends up nice, darkly citrine colors. Yep, this is true. Bobby says, me too. I use my right hand for healing. I use both of mine. Sundrop says, what if you don't react and ignore a spirit? Will it eventually go away? Or will it mess with you until you do respond to it? In general, if you don't react to it, you're not feeding it, it's not getting any energy, and it's going to go away.
Especially with the obnoxious ones that you want to go away, like the larva and thought forms you accidentally create that then feed off your own energy. The best way is if you control those passions and keep yourself under control and don't give in to the temptations and things, and those will starve and die off.
Yeah.
So yeah, there'd be just a few exceptions that would continue to pester you, and then sometimes they'll just need to be dealt with.
But in general, if you don't engage, I've read any number of stories where someone's just wanting to delve into the paranormal. They think they have something happening in their house. They start to buy all kinds of ghost hunting equipment. They start videotaping things and recording things, and the energy gets stronger and stronger and more outrageous as they continue along those lines, because their attention and their focus and their obsession with it is feeding the phenomena.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have to be careful with that. And when you try to tell people they need to ignore it, they're like, how? It's like, well, you just don't respond. It's like, like, sorry, not doing anything. So Heather says, so happy and grateful I finally caught you guys live. It's been many, many moons. Missed you guys. Well, welcome back, Heather. Beth says, Bobby, we would have fun at lunch and crystal shopping. Bobby says, I used Newmite yesterday. I asked them help for things for to eat and be well, and they answered it was 5 a.m. I was happy. I have had an answer. You, Beth, yes, we would have unlimited fun.
And it's fun when you actually get an answer, isn't it? That's cool.
Beth says, Bobby, absolutely. Papa Joe says, Reiki to bring peace. Well, if you're healthy and your mind is part of your health, right? So I would assume that yes. Bobby says, recently my topmost crystal is Newmite. Those stones are 1.3 billion years old and more. My new top crystal is Newmite. It's very strong and very old, those stones. Oops, sorry for the repeat. Regina says, $10,000 to be certified as a Reiki master in the UC method. Ridiculous. I stopped at second degree.
And
Yeah.
I agree. Those kind of fees are ridiculous.
And
I mean,
I agree.
yeah.
that's why I was glad that we found somebody who actually was already a Reiki master and just did it.
Yeah, I understand the purposes and things behind that, and I read the books and saw how those big fees came about and all that, and I kind of agree with the principle, but I don't agree with the method because so many people just can't afford that who might be great healers and who might really benefit the world who just can't afford to pay that kind of money.
I
I
agree.
think it's ridiculous and it offends me personally.
Yeah, Beth says, Bobby, I've lost 2 crystals in my healing room. I put them somewhere and forgot where. Bobby says, oh, those poor babies. Juanita says, there is quite the delay with the chat coming through to you. Well, I'm reading all of them, so it takes time.
Plus, which is actually delayed. I can see the full delay after we speak, and there's actually a bit of a delay after we speak, and that's just kind of seems to be standard for YouTube from
That's
where
the
we're
way
at.
the
Yeah,
internet works.
yeah.
So Heather says, what's your favorite color? Purple, if I have to pick a color. Kendra's Journey says, I stopped at second degree as well, Regina. Too expensive for not much reason that I can figure out. Beth says, yes, Siofra, we do have crystals everywhere. Bobby, it was driving me bonkers, so I had to let it go, and I know they'll come to me. Sometimes they're just off there doing something you don't know what it is. Um, Bobby says, sometimes we lose them, others needed them. Gageko says, who's Barden?
Okay, so first I'm going to spell this out. It's Franz Barden, and he was a Czechoslovakian Hermetic master. Hermetics being the magic of science, but separated out from the ceremonial aspects, which he considers as kind of a separate deal.
And he died in the 60s, wasn't it? I think it was in the 60s that he died.
Yeah, I don't remember. He lived through World War II, so he was that era. Survived the firebombing at Dresden and stuff, and he died. So I don't know. It might have been the 40s. I honestly don't remember.
You can look that up.
Good question. Yeah.
Yeah. And he is just a he did not want to write the books that he wrote, but he was told he had to write them, so he did. He was sort of instructed by the spirit world that they needed to be written. Beth says, Siofra, I use both of my hands also. It just comes naturally.
He died in 1958 at the age of 48 years from pancreatitis.
Okay, so I was pretty close, almost to 60.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Bobby says, paranormal or papa normal? Ha ha. Beth says, Bobby's so true. Dizzy says, hi everyone. Hi, Dizzy. Dizzy said, Ian, could you elaborate on dealing with it regarding thought forms getting out of control, especially if they become semi-sentient?
Well, okay. So assuming, there's two potential things here. One is if you made the thought form yourself on purpose, and we won't deal with that, assuming that most people didn't or they can't in any way real specifically. But well, I guess it's all the same thing. So what you would do if you'd made a thought form and put it like in a figure, such as you might make like say like my name is Ian Coyote. I might make a little coyote to go out there and do things for me or something. And then if it got out of control, when you program those things, you program it that it will be destroyed if you destroy its body. So if you'd made like say a body out of Sculpey or something, and then it got out of control, you could destroy the body and that would destroy the thought form, things like that. You program them when you make them, you program it with a death date so that if it gets out of control or anything happens, it's going to die on a certain date unless you recharge it, refeed it, whatever.
Or if you lose it or someone
Yeah,
steals it
things
from you,
like
it
that.
dies.
Um, if it's one you have to deal with that you didn't purposely make, and if it's a thought form like that, you're under no, I mean, if it's a pre existing entity of some sort, a being, you don't want to just kill it. At least that's my thinking. But if it's a thought form and something like that, just destroy it. So, any of the methods you could use a magical dagger, magical sword, banishing ritual, pentagrams, throw pentagrams at it. You want to visualize it being destroyed by whatever method there's a lot of room there, so it would have to depend more specifically on what kind of thought form you're dealing with, and if you had made it as a servitor and that kind of thing. But generally, if you program them right, you could, um, if you have a one that belongs in a housing that's in his house, you can wrap it with silk and keep it in there and then destroy the housing, or um, different ways of cutting it off, using the acacia, uh, basically using your willpower and magical tools you have to destroy it. It's kind of a, yeah, we need more specific, unless you, what would you put to add to that?
I don't think so. I don't think I have anything I
Yeah.
needed to add to
Okay.
that
So, yeah.
as far as it goes. So, um, so Beth says, of course, it's purple, me too. Sometimes I theater with white and gold. I wear colors, but my favorite will always be black for clothes. Shay says, hello all, happy live stream. I was here at 2:46. Interesting delay with the chat on my end. Hi, Shay. Heather says, purple is mine as well. Pajo says, thought forms are egrigores.
Well, egregores, which is,
Egregores.
yeah, it
Well,
can
that's
be.
not actually
Not,
true.
they're not quite the same thing,
No. I
but
mean, anytime you think at someone or think about someone or think about something, you've made a
yeah.
thought form.
But an egregore can contain a thought form
Yeah,
that
you
can
can make
be,
one out of
yeah,
one.
yeah.
So,
So,
yeah, I mean, I have seen thought forms that someone's not magical at all is made because I'm in the right frame of mind to be able to see the thoughts in their head coming out of their brain and floating
yeah.
down the side of, a bunch of stairs and coming right up to me. Um, so when we're talking about thought forms, it's not just that. Um, it's a broader subject.
Yeah, and a lot of them can be like larvae, which are usually brought about by excessive passions or anger or something like that, or unrequited love or something like that brings about the thought forms. And then if it's something like that that makes them, the best way to get rid of them is to starve them out by stopping whatever
And then they can turn into like larvae.
obsessions. Yeah, they're usually created by like obsessions of some sort. So and if you control those obsessions, then those kind of thought forms will die off on their own.
So Beth says hi to Heather. Dizzy says, I'm super interested in those master record keeper quartz crystals. They look like little triangles etched on the faces. They're supposed to be a record of ancient knowledge. Well, I think anything that exists can be a record of ancient knowledge. Beth says hi to Shay. Bobby says, yes, I have two of those crystals. Amethyst can destroy those thought forms.
Yeah, that's actually would be a good go-to to use an amethyst, especially because they're cosmic connections. Because one of the best things that kind of damage thought forms and things is the acacia.
Papa Joe says, portals are easy to open and not so to close. I disagree with that as well. It's making an assumption. You're telling yourself, whoever says that is telling you that you can open it, but you can't close it. So it's setting you up to fail in closing it because it takes just as much energy to open as it does to close. It's exactly the same amount of energy. A slightly different process or maybe, thinking or whatever, but it's not true. It doesn't have to be true. It can be true depending on where you've learned whatever it is that you've learned and what assumptions you've made about how it works. But that's the thing to remember, that these are assumptions that we're making about how things work. And we can be wrong, and that's okay. Beth says, Bobby, I love amethyst. It's my birthstone. Dizzy says, like a servitor, Ian, I probably won't make one, but on an investigation for
Yeah,
someone.
so for that thing, the best way to do it would be to program in like a death date, to program in a death ritual, like I will do this, and this thought form will die. And especially if you tie it to a physical body of some sort, or you could tie it to a physical object. It doesn't even have to be a body that looks like anything. You could put it in a rubber ball or basically anywhere. And when you make the thing, you just will it, program it that this is its body, and when the body is destroyed, it will die with it, that kind of thing. And then it makes it pretty easy to just get rid of it if you want to.
So Gaga Gecko says, I typed Brands Barton and an alcohol brand came up. Well, clearly not correctly spelled
Yeah,
and the wrong thing.
yeah, I spelled it up above there, Bardon.
O N.
And Franz is an Franz.
And Bobby says, but recently I had a lot of problems to resonate well with Garnet, my January birthstone. Ether, egregore. Negative thoughts are evil or just imperfect, how to view it without judging. Negative thoughts just exist, just
Well,
like positive thoughts exist, and they're neither good nor evil. They're
well, yeah, that's the thing that to remember that evil is just a relative human term based on our, I mean, I would consider it evil to go out there and um, well, yeah, that could be a whole discussion, but I agree. It's a human determination and they aren't generally evil. So when you find me using that term, it'll be used towards thought forms specifically for the purpose of harming others, that kind of thing, when I use the term. Because I agree that they're neither, it's just a thing. Like a knife is just a tool for cutting bread or for stabbing somebody.
when it comes to thoughts, we all have negative and positive, or
Yeah.
what we would consider negative and positive thoughts. You see somebody and you think they're fat, or you don't like what they're wearing, or you judge what they drive, or whatever. That creates what would be considered maybe a negative thought form, but they're just
Yeah.
thoughts. They don't necessarily have any oomph to them when they're just like that. So Regina says, Siofra, do you have a Venmo option for donation or just Patreon? Actually, I have a PayPal account on my email, Shiofra'sMagicAlcove@gmail.com, that you can use if you want to. You can also do it through Facebook Pay, I guess. They have their own way of doing it. I don't have a Venmo account. Pa Joe says, great stuff. Love it. Gnosis. Beth says, Bobby Garnet's beautiful. Open up to it. I'm at this just may be the stone for your crystal. For you, Crystal. Bobby says, agreed, Beth. I like garnets too. I like the fact that you can get a natural garnet that's a pretty good size for not too much money. At least you used to be able to. Who knows now? Prices of things keep changing. Bobby says, agreed, Beth. Dizzy says, like if someone is being haunted or we got to take that out, laugh out loud.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. My go-to since I learned it in the past is the banishing rituals and banishings with the pentagrams. Um, Things will seldom require more than that. Um, but I'll pass that over to Shifra.
Well, I mean, if somebody is haunted and you have to take something out, you can,
Assuming it's not a human
it's
spirit.
not a
I think
human
yeah.
spirit, you can ground it, you can banish it, yeah, there's a lot of different methods we've already talked about. So you can just tell it, go away or else, if you have natural authority, and they will go away because they know what or else means and they don't want to get that happening. Bobby says, I will now put on my garnet bracelet. Papa Joe says, yin yang balance, love it. Kendra's Journey says, what age do you consider a crone? I'm 53 and I'm so excited about all my gray hair. Well, okay, so traditionally, woman of the 13th moon would be one of the definitions of a crone. So that would be after you've not had any menses for at least 13 months. So you've ceased menstruation altogether for a period of time. And then in that culture, they would consider you a crone. So I don't think it's just a number. It might be different for, different ethnic groups and so forth and different individuals. But yay. I'm definitely a crone, I think, at this point at the age of 74, if age is a factor. Beth says, I had the same problem. Opening was easy, closing was a little struggle after Schieffer explained it. It's effortless now. Yes, I love that. It's like, you got to watch out. How you think about what you're doing can impact its ability to function seriously, especially when you're dealing with energy. Gaga Gecko says, do you receive karma from thought forms actions even if you didn't know you made it?
That's actually an excellent question. And you do, though it's generally if you're not focusing hard on a thought form like that, your karma will be as mild as your thought form, and it could be good or it could be bad. But since karma is really just energy balancing out, so it depends on how much energy your thought form went and how much it does. Since somebody there isn't like a god deciding your karma. It's just all like an exchange of energy, and it affects you. So yes, in most cases, most people's thought forms aren't powerful enough to cause any issues unless they get their concentration up really well. And
And they're
then,
purposely trying to harm someone,
well,
then they're
yeah,
going to have negative consequences.
yeah. And once you reach a certain point in your development, you just have to start controlling your thought forms. Um, it becomes a natural part of the process of continuing to develop, because if you don't, you're shooting yourself in your foot if you're thinking negative thought forms, and then
Yeah.
your concentration stuff becomes too good and they start manifesting in ways you don't want.
The trick is to get to the point where you're not interested in having those kinds of thoughts anymore.
Yeah.
Not that you're trying to clamp down and control your thoughts. You want to actually evolve your
Right,
spirit
evolve
and
beyond
yourself
them.
to the point where they just don't happen. Um,
Yeah, and that
and if
that
you have them, you don't judge yourself for it. You just keep moving forward, because then you're creating like a negative feedback loop and actually increasing the number of
right.
negative
You
thoughts
don't
you
want
might
to.
have.
Yeah, you don't want to like. Yeah, you can easily create a black hole like
Yes.
overthinking it, thinking
Yes.
about it too much.
And
Yeah,
over judging yourself
yeah.
constantly. Um, so Bobby says, "Oh, okay. Thanks for the advice, Beth." Juanita says, "I think it's harder to close a portal because of the fear someone has of not being able to close it, unknowingly making it harder for themselves." Yeah.
That's one of
And
the.
all of the stuff on movies and shows and people saying it over and over and over again, just because a million people say it doesn't mean it's true. Because there's a lot of things that humanity has said that has been so obviously wrong later. It's just not a necessary, it's not, you can't judge that something is true based upon how many people believe in it. It's not the same. But yeah, that says, Kandira come on and embrace her. I don't know what that means.
I don't even see it. So.
Martin
Oh, I see.
says,
Okay.
how do I control floating in a spiral when I'm trying to astral project? Think in a straight line.
Well, well, now,
Oh, you want to float in a
well,
spiral.
there's a thing there about a spiral. Um, it's normal if you're trying to project to the astral plane, so to speak. So you're going out into the Earth zone, what Barton terms the Earth zone, can feel like a spinning action, but it should stop once you get there.
Well, that's
If
when
it's
my
that
dreams, when I
particular
have the
one,
falling thing and I feel like I'm rolling around.
if it's that particular one of your being transported to that, it'll supposedly it will stop. I've never had that myself, but supposedly, if you do, it will stop once you get accustomed to it and will not happen anymore. So if that were the case, practice would be the answer for the solution, unless you've got something else going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dizzy says scientists are embedding data on quartz as a long-term data storage option too. Kind of neat synchronicity. Yep, it is, because they can be used for a lot of things. Um, and Bobby says, well, Martin, you might want to have on you an obsidian stone. They ground and protect our entire being.
That sounds like a good thing to try. Having obsidian has both Saturn and Earth connotations. Saturn in the useful form, not as in anything negative, it is in heavy and grounding. Yes.
Tina says, hello everyone, Ian and Siofra, do you have a favorite book by Barden? My favorite book by Barden is Magical Evocation, because I get to look at all the names and the seals of all the spirits and their jobs, and I find that fascinating. And I like knowing those things.
Yeah, my favorite book would have to be his third book on the Kabbalah, because wow, it's just the potential of what you can do. And if there's one thing I would like to keep through future lives, in my future reincarnations, I really want to rediscover Barton's true Kabbalah. That I think personally that that is the single most valuable piece of magical work I've ever come across in my entire life.
So Martin says, thanks, Bobby. I'll give it a try. The obsidian. Bobby says, you're welcome. Dizzy says, yin and yang, good and evil, etc. Balance. Papa Joe says, obsidian is sharp stuff. Well, it can be, but you can get it shaped so that it's not so sharp. You can get it, smoothed out. Bobby says, yes, Pa Joe, it has tremendous power. Sandcat says, hi all, better late than never. Hi, Sandcat. Bobby says, welcome, Sandcat. Regina says, whoa, I've been a crone for some years. Laugh out loud. Beth says, I'm back, loves. I had a call. Well, welcome back, Beth. Bobby says, controlling thought forms must be hard, and while we think about it, anxiety is not that far away if we mess up. Yeah, it's why it's good to be balanced in your mind and your thoughts and so forth and whatnot. Important. Dizzy says, oh, Siofra and Ian, have you heard of or encountered something called a soul collector, both human and non-human spirits that collect souls of people for power? Learned about this from two other folks. I've heard about it. Don't really want to get into it though, because it's some pretty negative stuff. Bobby says, you are forgiven, Beth. Joe says, all corners are surrounding, protected by obsidian and others' natural loves. Yes, that's one of the ways that you can protect a space. And if you're going to use obsidian to ground out negative energy, always imagine a root coming out of the stone into the ground. So the energy that goes in has an exit and can leave. It'll attract it, absorb it, and then expel it. So you
Yeah,
don't have it building up dark things in your corners.
yeah, that's one of the things we use.
See, Kendra says, fun chat all, wishing you all blessings. I have to go. Bye, Kendra.
Bye, Kendra.
Bobby says, sounds perfect, Pajo. Beth says, Bobby. Bobby says, see you soon, Kendra. Juanita says, I'm hearing a lot of stuff I needed to hear today. Awesome. It's always good. Beth says, the speaker hates me. Yeah, I'm sorry. Dizzy says, your videos on natural authority and the ghost proofing would be great for folks on the chat. Yeah, that's for sure. And, understanding how they work and what they are. And certainly the ghost proofing has helped me out a lot. I actually might have a new investigation to do. It'll be a little time because it's outdoors on the beach in the weather and the wind, and I'm waiting until the weather is not like it is right now, and at night, early in the morning, like at 2 a.m. But it's a local legend and a local spirit, and the grandson of one of my clients has started seeing her out there. And weirdly enough, this is the most common apparition that's ever been seen, would be the woman in white. It's just like, and this is a woman in white. So I'll be interested to see if indeed I can see her, which would be fun, and maybe I can help her. She supposedly killed herself in the 20s, early 1920s. So yeah, the person who brought it to me is pretty convinced he knows which spirit this is. There's a whole local lore about it. But I'll try to keep an open mind so I don't contaminate whatever I might get when I do go out there. So I told him I'm quite willing to go out, and I'm quite interested in seeing what the results be. So it'll probably be a couple of months before I actually get there. So he's been out there for a while. I'm not too worried about having to make it a priority. So Beth says, Juanita, that's awesome. That you're hearing a lot of stuff you need. Pa Joe says, nice, Juanita. Tina says, thanks so much, guys. You're welcome. Dizzy says, angels I've danced with in the astral move in circular motions. Maybe that's why that person is spinning. Maybe some kind of angelic interaction. Who knows? Anything is possible. Bobby says, Beth, what do you consider to be the most powerful crystal for me? Pneumite. Juanita says, my main goal, if I can help it in my next life, is to be good to myself and stop giving all my energy towards people, thoughts, things, ideas that doesn't serve it. Good idea. I like that. Regina says, what resource do you recommend for learning the qualities of stones? I have Stone Medicine book. Seemed a good starting point. Well, it's always a good place to start And remember that the best way to find out about the stones is to talk to them directly and to think them through, and just don't accept everyone else's um, definition of what the stone is for. Stones are individual, so in the same type of stone, there can be one stone that's more um, likely to be used for this purpose, but then one of it would like to be used for something else. So try and keep your mind open and interact with them directly as much as possible. Because you go look up on the internet the meaning and properties, magical properties of stones, you'll find that almost everything out there is quoting from exactly the same source. So finding different sources can be hard when it comes to search engines. I've got the Crystal Bible, and then I have what is it called, like Love Under the Earth or something, and it's another one of those kind of encyclopedic things. I've probably got 3 or 4 different sources for crystal information, and some of them I disagree with from direct experience. So Bobby says, Juanita, it's a very good thing for the goal. Dizzy said, yep, asking about the collector to learn how to deal with it. I'm one of those, how to deal with the worst case scenario before you go on a paranormal investigation. Well, if you have your natural protections and your natural authority up, you don't have to worry about things like that happening to you, because they're not going to. And you can always say when you get there that this is above my pay grade and I'm leaving. I had that happen when we walked into a museum down south of us, and something had been, that was very malevolent, had been placed inside of a wax figure in a museum display, and I did not know why it had been placed there. And it wasn't like typical of spirits that I've encountered. It wasn't angry or frustrated, it was raging and evil. And I said, we're leaving, goodbye. I'm out of here. So, there's always going to be someone with more experience. So, Gecko says, can I call in a spirit of some sort to change my DNA so I grow big like the Nephilim? I don't think so. I don't think that's how that works. Except in fiction books and movies. Dizzy says, oh, Woman in White, Lorona, what city is the investigation in? Well, it's the southern coast, it's on the beach. So it's not really a city, it's kind of in the wilds. Regina says, thank you, Siofra, wonderful advice. You're welcome. Pajo says, I enjoy finding places in the Pacific Northwest where the rocks cry out. Yeah. There's some neat places in the Pacific Northwest and some power spots here and there that we've encountered. Bobby says, oh yes, I seek always this, my experience with, name of the stone in the search bar. If a person just doesn't talk about the crystals as an experience they had, I won't view it. Probably smart, probably gets rid of a lot of things that are just like, cookie cutter. That happens with everything, including herbs and stuff like that. So finding accurate information about plants can also be difficult. Julia says, Scott Cunningham's Encyclopedia on Stones is a good start, but remember it's from the late 80s and not all inclusive and can use more recent discoveries. And also he was incorrect in some of his attributes, in my opinion. That's a weird sound. Dizzy says, I wonder if a human spirit could merge with an egregore archetype spirit. I don't know. Papa Joe says, feet. Martin says, I see a lot of people with cat eyes or crocodile eyes, even in my sister. It happens after profound meditation. Have you seen them before? Not really. No, I don't think so. I
No, me
haven't.
neither.
Yeah. That can be like seeing a essence of their spirit or something like that, I'm thinking. Beth says, I'm back again. My apologies. BFF with an emergency. 2 of them, actually. I don't like that rumbling sound.
Just somebody's big car running in the back.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It's annoying. Bobby says, it is okay, Beth. You're forgiven again. One question to you, Beth. What is your most powerful crystal? So we'll wait for Beth to tell us.
That's probably gonna be rumbling. He does what he usually does. He lets it run for like a half hour.
Oh, groan. Dizzy says, thank you, Siofra and Ian. What do you tell folks at the museum? I bet they asked what to do, what's appropriate in respect to the client, but also the entity. Well, actually, I didn't say anything to them. It was pretty clear that whatever was going on in there was like, had been there for a while. That was the place where the woman who was in charge of doing the displays and everything, she put everything in every display in the wrong position in relationship to every other thing in the display. The thing was so discordant, it was almost impossible to walk through. And since I didn't have any advice to give and didn't have any references or whatever, I didn't see the point of saying anything. Sometimes, you know, you can feel something really strong and other people might not feel it at all. So I don't know. Beth says, Bobby, I have one I've had 40 years of crystal. Julia says, oh yes, Shifra. He wasn't 100%, that's for sure. Bobby says, and which is it, Beth? Bobby says, wow, 40 years. Me too, been into crystal since the last 35 plus. Bobby says, a citrine was my very first I had. Julia says that Bobby, Propo, what do you mean by monk mode? Did I miss something? I don't see anything about monks. Bobby says, monk mode? I mean, sort of in a meditation mood, calm, serious, with no distractions. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. Beth says, gosh, it depends on the energy, the time of year, etc. I prefer selenite, amethyst, every crystal I use for different situation. Same here. I was thinking about crystals I've had for a long time, and I have a crystal that I got at the Harmonic Convergence in on the Big Island in Hawaii. That was at that ritual on the beach by the City of Refuge there on the west side of the island. And so I've had that crystal for quite some time. But a lot of them I just get, use, and, you know, and have for different purposes. Selenite's one of my favorites. Amethyst, lapis. There's so many of them. They're all so good. They're all for different reasons. Bobby says, good answer, Beth. Gaga Gecko says, can I make a sigil that lets me go through walls? No, except as a spirit. This is not like, you know, Men Who Stare at Goats. Although that was a fun movie.
Recommended movie though.
I love that movie. Bobby says, my most powerful is an iron red tiger eye tower with red jasper and hematite. A real beast. Ooh, nice. I like that. That'd be good for protection. I have a couple of tower stones. I think I have a labradorite tower right now that I picked up at the last rock show, which I like a lot. I have some nice red tiger eye too, and green tiger eye, which is also quite interesting. Beth says, Bobby, love. Dizzy says that Julia, there are some medieval books on occult stone knowledge recently translated. Miskatonic books, bad spelling, sorry. Might be a good to find some. Cool. Beth says, crystals are like my children. I can't pick a favorite. Bobby says, do you like fluorite? I love fluorite. That's great. I got a bunch of that too. And angelite and apophyllite and celestite and jasper, a bunch of different jaspers. Bobby says, how so? Can you give an example, Beth? That's a powerful projection stone, and yes, I do. She likes fluorite. Not sure how there's an example. Anyway, we're talking about rocks. Julia says, I think what you need will respond to you differently at different times. 1 month, maybe an opal is what you will respond to your purpose, a citrine at another time, and so on. Pa Joe says, fluorite. Yes, laugh out loud. Dizzy says, at Julia, I just bought a book on putting spirits in crystals written in the 1600s, I think. Haven't got to it yet.
Sounds interesting.
I wouldn't want to be a person who owned a crystal that had a spirit was put into it if it was without its permission. but there are some that volunteer.
Well, it's depending,
Yeah,
written in the 1600s, depending on
it's a high likelihood that it's probably without permission if it's written in the
I
1600s.
think it'd be interesting to read though,
Yes, it would be interesting to read.
myself. I love
Absolutely.
reading things like that they
Yep.
used to do.
Bobby says, yes, Pajo. Dang kids. Dang blanket. Juanita says, I recently read, or rather listened to, two books you all might enjoy: Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies and Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands, if anyone is looking for an escape. Thank you. Always appreciate a good uh, reference. Julia says, thank you, Dizzy. Bobby says, Siofra, do you sometimes play video games? Yes, I'm currently playing one right now online. And I accidentally saved a bunch of wisps in the video game and got a whole bunch of like apparently fame. And I'm now a wisp friend, which was a surprise because I did not know that that was what was going to happen. I just wanted to, open up this thing. And I kept doing it over and over again. And then it popped up and said, you are now a favored wisp friend. I'm like, cool.
Good karma points in a game.
In a
Cool.
game, even. Yes. Beth says, that's hard. It's beautiful. It touches my heart and doesn't take any stuff. Astra says, hello. Hi, Astra. Bobby says, brown tourmaline recently I tested and was surprised. Yeah, tourmalines are interesting. They come in so many different colors. I mean, I've got a black, see, I've got black and I've got, I think, a blue. Yeah, there's just all kinds of things. Astra says, I had a Kundalini awakening from the fairy presence. All my chakras are spinning. It's kind of terrifying, but cool. Yeah, it is kind of terrifying and cool at the same time. Surprise! Beth says, Bobby, I don't have a brown one. How did it feel? Gaga Gecko said, I heard hell is 3 dimensions, and the higher you go up, the more it looks like Earth, and it's always cold at nighttime. Your take on that? I have no clue. I live in a 3rd dimensional reality right now called physical Earth and my body and so forth. And I don't consider it hell. I consider this is like my favorite place to be.
I'm going to term hell as one of those human defined places, because I don't think such a place exists in reality except the hell people create for themselves and that they create to go to in the afterlife based on their beliefs in this life.
Yeah, like I did in one of my lives.
Yeah.
It was a real place for sure, but you can't stay there forever. It's hard to maintain that kind of focus that you deserve to be in a place. Come back here. Bobby says, I had a major awakening using my serpentine bracelet. Amazing stuff. Astra says, I saw the fairies and angels working on my body and they were moving along with the chakra spinning. Our fairies healers. They have come and healed me a couple of times. So I think the answer is yes. I mean, they take care of all other kinds of life, plant life and, animal life and so forth. So, and they want things to be in balance and as healthy as possible. So I can only imagine that there's healing fairies that are out there and that sometimes they take a liking to us as individuals and want to see if they can help. Bobby says, the brown one felt like it was in control. My energy was at the optimum. Beth says, oh my God, have you seen the Labradorite Aquaman wears in the first Aquaman? I want one that looks like that. Labradorites are fun. I like them. Julia says, one thing that I love to do is to make a purchase of a crystal online, trusting in the universe to send the one I need of that sort to me, and then without cleansing or anything, hold it and feel love. Oh, good. You're very, what's the word? Brave. There are some crystals I'm not willing to do that with. Some are okay, but yeah, I've had some not so great encounters with crystals that when I can see where they've been mined and how they've been treated. So Pa Joe sent a whole bunch of emojis. Dizzy says, I was thinking it might help transfer dryads from dying trees to new saplings from storm damage or wildfires. I live in California, so basically search and rescue for fey folk in danger, life goals. Well, I don't think that they die when the tree goes. They move to a new location because they're not. It's not like they only exist because of the specific tree that they're taking care of. I don't think, but making a wand out of it is certainly a way to keep the spirit of the tree alive. Cutting the wand, the wood, and caring for it. I've experienced that. But hey, it's a worthy goal. Bobby says, Siofra, is there a ritual to attract my ancestors? Oh, ancestor influence. I missed somebody. Gecko said, I heard the earth is also a hell state. It's all in how you treat it and what you do with it. Bobby says, onyx also is amazing to balance, like brown tourmaline. Pa Joe says, ancestor influence. I don't work with my ancestors. Beth says, Bobby, ooh, very nice. Bobby says, Siofra, is there a ritual to attract my ancestors? Not that I know of. I don't work with my ancestors.
So, in other words, there could be, but that's not something we're
I'm not
involved
experienced
with.
in,
Yeah.
and I would assume that you could probably do some searching and find out. I would think having an altar to your ancestors, having pictures, information about who they were, etc., would be one of the things to do. Finding out about the culture they came from, thinking of culturally appropriate kinds of conversations to have with them. That's what I would look for. Alpada says, what varieties of medicinal plants grow wild, natural near your home? And what are your favorite types to pick and use? Rosemary, sage, lavender in my garden, although I'm not sure that they're like from the area.
Yeah, sage,
Sage is probably from somewhere else,
but it does grow. There is a lot of wild sage in
Northern California in the
Northern
deserts.
California, which is not far from,
Right.
well, several hours, but I mean, not, you know, not hundreds of miles or.
Well, and we have like that
We have a lot of angelica
that's what I was trying to
and
think of. Thank you, Angelica. We also have lots of poisonous plants.
lots of poisonous
Lots of
mushrooms and
poisonous
everything
plants. All
over
kinds
here on
of
the coast.
those.
You know,
Hemlock.
Yep, to name one. Death cap mushrooms.
Yes, all kinds of poisonous plants around here.
Yeah. Well, they aren't plants, but that's okay. Fungus.
Well, yeah. Juanita says, I've always wanted to obtain moldavite. Bobby says, so far my most surprising stone crystal, I must say, serpentine. It's like I was a new person, but better. I would never have guessed what it can do. Well, it could be really specific to you, so that's good. We only have a couple minutes left, so we're going to have to not be answering any more questions in particular, I guess. But Beth says, I just talked. Oh, Pastor says, I texted my therapist because I'm shaking and feel like wheels are spinning all over my body. I don't want my ego to do will I be. I also have DID. This is daunting. My therapist says to ground. Always ground. Definitely a good idea to ground and eat some food to help you ground. That helps with the Kundalini to dampen it a little bit. Beth says, I just talked to my ancestors. Bobby says, oh, talk to them, but I don't hear anything back. Julia says, yeah, I know the other word aside from brave that would fit my little escapade is dumb as a box of rocks sometimes. I think that my request that the right one for me be sent has some effect, I hope. Well, I'm sure it does.
Oh yeah, we have kind of a relationship of our own with the universe and those
Yeah.
type of things. Yeah, you can get surprising results sometimes.
Absolutely. Bobby says ancestors of past life and also from entire other realm. Sage is great. I don't like Palo Santo. Yeah, I'm growing some I bought some seeds of the silver sage and I've got 4 plants growing in my garden right now and they're doing pretty well. Sandcat says completely off topic. I've been in my garden this morning, New Zealand, and for the first time I saw lettuce flowers. They are blue, purple. It's a magical color and I really felt an awesome vibe. Cool. That says, Bobby, you'll feel them first in the youngest or on both sides of the family. They know I'm a witch. but I'm the baby. Pa Joe says many kinds of sage. Gecko says, I heard about this one person who got to a level where he was giving his students gold necklaces, but made it appear out of nothing, like he broke through the matrix or something. What's your take?
My take is investigate Sai Baba, SAI space BABA, and you can see a lot of videos on YouTube of him materializing things. He's very well known for materializing objects and chains and things like that he gives to his followers. And now there are enough videos on there you can just watch him manifest things down as he does it. He spins his hand, real fast in a circle, and then something will appear in there. And so they've got verified video of him materializing things
And I
down.
feel sorry for the jeweler who's losing his gold necklaces.
Well, but that is, yeah, apparently Sai Baba does it. I haven't seen him do it in person, but it seems to be, with him, it seems to be a well-known phenomena that he does that.
Okay, guys, we're out of time. It's now been an hour and a half. So
and quickie take on Aleister Crowley from Gaga Gecko. He was very serious. Most everything you hear about him was bullshit. All the stuff you hear that he did, all the what's the word? All the really dramatic, all the awful stuff and all that is all bull. He was a serious magician. He was really vilified by the press, and that's all bull. And also, um, he was a little bit off the right path, even though his magic is very serious and there's a whole lot to it. So that's my quickie Crowley in a nutshell. I follow Barden instead, though I followed Crowley for some time.
okay, guys, love you all, and
Good night,
we'll
everybody,
talk to you all
or
next
good
week,
day.
and I hope everybody has a great week and
Bless you all, and thank you all for
participating and coming and asking wonderful questions and keeping us entertained to the point where we had no idea what time it was.
losing track of time. That's the way
Yeah.
it should be. So.
Yep. All right, guys. Bye.
Bye.